Well, today I'm very excited to introduce my new project. 1964 two-door crew cab, 1.5 ton Chevy truck. Been working on it, getting her stripped down, get ready to start cutting on it. The chassis is out from underneath a 1.5 ton grain truck. I got it over from the Spokane area, so it's nice clean metal. Right now we have a 87 Chevy van front end just kind of mocked up in there. I need to figure out exactly where the axle center line is and the height we need it. Then we'll get it modified. Probably going to have to build upper control arms, possibly lower control arms. We'll see. We got some pretty big airbags for it. Cab's pretty decent. The roughest spot is up around the windshield. The rodents got up in there. You can see the leftover food bits. And then of course their urine makes everything just rot out. I'm hoping the rust doesn't get too bad in there, but probably gonna have to pull the roof skin out of it. It got the inside pretty bad too, but looks like it stops right about where the headliner line is. So got a spare cab that was pretty rotted at the floors, and it's a big back window that we're going to use for parts. Nice big back seat. I don't know if it's ever been sat on too much. It's pretty comfy. Windows don't roll down. Kind of bugs me a little bit, but I don't know. It'd almost be nice to make some big old speaker boxes back behind that panel. So we'll see how that works out. The dash was already cut, so we'll have to put an in-dash big monitor in there because it's already cut anyway. Original premium gauges, so that's good. Looks like what happened, I'm not sure if it's a stageway conversion or who did it, but the way this truck looks like it was done was they cut right here on the panel. You can kind of see here the way it was rolled back over. The metal work that you can see is pretty terrible, so I'm kind of concerned about the stuff you can't see, but you know, at the end of the day, maybe it'll just be a cool work truck. And then they stretched the panel to there and brought that back in. And interested to see how much filler's in this truck. Got a long bed from a gentleman down in Vancouver, and I think that'll definitely work. It's not too terrible. Got the old Dodge Dana 80. It's a cabin chassis, so it's pretty narrow, the axle, but I think it'll work pretty good for what we're doing. I want the rear fenders to not stick out too much past where the front fenders do, because these 1.5 ton trucks have the kick out on the front fenders, and I'd like to kind of match that up if we can. So it's a pretty exciting project, and it's been a long time coming. I'm pretty excited to get going on it. Here are the wheels for it. With a 285/35 24, and then the inners ended up going with a highway tread Mastercraft 235/85. The inners are just a touch shorter. I aired them up to 80, and with the outers down at 40, I think we'll be sitting pretty good. Plus it should be a pretty heavy truck, so it shouldn't matter too much. But yeah, that's the 64. I don't know if we call it a crew cab. I think it's a two-door crew cab. It's definitely got a man-sized rear seat. So the frame's pretty tall on these 1.5 tons. But we're gonna run running boards on this truck anyway, so I'm not too worried about this one laying rocker. I want a big frame, big heavy duty stuff. It's kind of crazy how flexy these frames are. I'm sure it'll get a little bit stiffer once we get some cross members back in her. And here is the exciting part, the power plant. So this is 1984-ish Hino. It's a 6-cylinder inline, 6.4 liter diesel engine. Got a mechanical injection pump. I ended up getting a newer style injection pump that was actually meant for an automotive application, and that gave me my boost reference and some adjustment for that on the AFC housing. Had to modify the starter. It was originally a 12 volt, so we went over, or originally a 24 volt. Had to get that modified. Basically, they ended up at the starter shop just buying a whole complete Chinese starter and using my base to mount that all up. Got the quick draw adapter to go to my NV 4500. It's a Chevy NV 4500, so it has the really deep low gear, which is what I wanted. And we still get 5th gear overdrive. Hopefully it's a good combination for hauling some heavy loads. I guess time will tell. A lot of this stuff is trial and error, but I did the gear ratio calculators and I think it'll be alright. So been working on my air compressor mount for it. That came off of a Monaco motorhome, so being a motorhome, hopefully it doesn't have a ton of hours on it. Felt really tight, and these things last a long time. So it's a True Flow. And this one's a 650. My last truck I ran a 500 and it took a while. I'm hoping this 650 does a little bit better. And this one's got a smaller pulley because it was off of a diesel. And being that's going on a diesel, won't see really high RPMs. Flip the exhaust manifold over. And flipping the exhaust manifold over, got my turbo down where it was supposed to be. So yeah, that's the truck. She's got a little bit of crustiness to her, but I think it's worth saving. What do you guys think? Here's the parts bench. We've got a few things going for it. Got the adapters. Pretty happy with the quality on them. It's kind of cool nowadays, they make them out of a piece of cast iron. Remember back in when I first started messing with these trucks and started doing the semi wheels, you could only get this stuff if you machined it yourself or paid a machine shop to do it. You couldn't just order this stuff up. It's kind of cool that it's became awfully mainstream to where you can just order it up and they do it all off of CNC, and it's all high quality stuff. Got a bushing kit from Barnes for the 4-link. Pretty nice stuff. This is right out of the box. Haven't cleaned it up yet. Nice heavy wall DOM. Seems like everybody uses the same size bushing. This 1.5-inch bushing. I tried finding some bigger ones, but that was all the bigger I could find from anybody. Old nut sack there. Some body mounts. The rear of these use a special body mount on the 4-wheel drives and the 1.5 tons, and that's what this truck was originally, was a 1.5 ton. And so the 1.5 ton and the I know for sure the 4-wheel drives as well, they call it like a hydraulic body mount in the rear, so it's got a big old bushing isolator on it. It's quite a bit different than all the 1/2 ton 2-wheel drives that I've always messed with. So see how that works out. Hopefully this weekend we'll start doing some mock-up on suspension and get the frame cut down. I left the frame full length right now because I was kind of concerned about how much I'm going to step it up. I'm going to do this chassis a little bit different than I've ever done them. Instead of doing a step notch, I'm going to kick the front of the frame. I'm going to angle cut it, bring it up, and then bring it back. That should work out pretty good because I want to do my parallel 4-link directly underneath the frame rail. And I didn't want to just have a notch in the frame. This thing I'm trying to keep that open C frame because these trucks are really flexy, and that's how they last a long time on the highway. Is, you know, metal does better when it flexes around. You make stuff too rigid and it tends to crack out and break. So being that the low profile tires are pretty stiff, and that's how all heavy duty tires are really, that's where you get a lot of flex and stuff, and it kind of helps these trucks go down the road, it seems like. So if you've ever seen a big diesel torquing up or a medium duty truck, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's the project. Hopefully next year we'll have her on the road. We'll see. So here's my frame rail sticking out the back right now. That's the original frame from when this was just a regular cab grain truck is what it was. Oh, excuse me, it wasn't a grain truck. That's what they were often used for. This one was actually, for part of its life at least, the chassis truck was for the fire department over outside of Spokane, and they had a big water tank on it and a pretty hideous flatbed. So when I got it, the water tank was bad and it just had a flatbed on it, so we threw the flatbed away. It was just scrap at that point. It wasn't very nice. And then the cab's going on another project. I really bought it just for the chassis and the front end. The front end amazed me. There's just no rust on it. Finding these trucks without a lot of rust in them is getting harder and harder. So I've been heading out of town, putting some miles down to go get the metal, and driving all the different ends of the state of Washington, and been getting pretty lucky.